Before this story begins, understand this clearly. This is a work of fiction. The people, town, emergency, and events in this story are fictional. This story is for entertainment and educational discussion only. Herbs are not replacements for prescription medications, emergency medical care, or professional diagnosis and treatment. Never stop or replace prescribed medication because of information in a video. Herbs and supplements can cause side effects and interact with medications. During a real medical emergency, contact emergency services or a qualified healthcare professional. Now, with that understood, this is the story of Cedar Hollow. Population, 2,817. One pharmacy. One grocery store. One medical clinic. And one highway connecting the entire town to everything else. Nobody living there thought much about that highway until the morning it disappeared. It started with rain. Not ordinary rain. For 4 straight days, water hammered the mountains surrounding Cedar Hollow. Creeks became rivers. Fields became lakes. Trees fell. Power lines snapped. Then, at 3:17 in the morning, part of the mountain gave way. Thousands of tons of mud, rock, and trees crashed across Highway 16. The only major road into Cedar Hollow was gone. By sunrise, emergency officials delivered the news. Nobody was coming in. Nobody was going out. Not yet. Engineers needed to inspect the mountain. More rain was coming. The town might be isolated for days, possibly longer. At first, people treated it like an inconvenience. The grocery store became crowded. Batteries disappeared. Bread disappeared. Bottled water disappeared. Gasoline lines stretched around the block. But nobody was worried about the little pharmacy beside the grocery store. Not yet. Then came day 3. The pharmacist, Mr. Reynolds, walked into the back room. He stared at shelves that were becoming increasingly empty. He checked his computer again. Deliveries delayed. No trucks. No alternate route suitable for normal commercial traffic. And dozens of people were waiting for refills. Mr. Reynolds called the county. "We need medical supplies." The answer wasn't what he wanted. "We know." "When?" "We don't know." That afternoon, a handwritten sign appeared on the pharmacy door. "Emergency supply limits in effect." People started getting nervous. Insulin, heart medication, seizure medication, asthma medication, antibiotics, blood pressure medication. These weren't luxuries. And suddenly, Cedar Hollow learned something uncomfortable. A pharmacy doesn't manufacture medicine. It stores medicine. And eventually, shelves become empty. One of the people watching from across the street was 67-year-old Evelyn Moore. Everyone called her Miss Evelyn. She lived outside town on 11 acres. She had a garden larger than some people's houses. Vegetables occupied one section. Culinary herbs another. Fruit trees lined the property. And behind her greenhouse was something most people had never noticed. Rows of labeled plants. Evelyn had studied herbalism for more than 30 years. But she wasn't the town witch. She was an anti-doctor. And she didn't believe a leaf could magically replace modern medicine. In fact, whenever someone asked her what herb they should take instead of their prescription, Evelyn gave the same answer. "Ask your doctor." People sometimes laughed. "Aren't you the herb lady?" "Yes." "So why are you sending me to a doctor?" because knowing plants should make you smarter, not reckless. Evelyn understood something the internet often forgot. Traditional herbal knowledge could be useful, but useful did not mean unlimited. And it definitely didn't mean every plant was a replacement for every drug. On day 4, someone knocked on her door. It was her neighbor Marcus. His 12-year-old son had developed a persistent cough. Not a medical emergency. No difficulty breathing. No high fever. But the pharmacy shelves containing several ordinary over-the-counter comfort products had been picked nearly clean. Marcus asked, "You got anything?" Evelyn immediately asked questions. "Is he having trouble breathing?" "No." "Chest pain?" "No." "High fever?" "No." "Getting worse quickly?" "No." "If any of that changes, you call the clinic." "I will." Only then did Evelyn walk toward her pantry. She had dried thyme, honey, ginger, peppermint, mullein, several ordinary herbs people had traditionally used in teas and other preparations. But she didn't dump everything into one giant concoction. She selected a simple preparation appropriate to the situation and explained exactly what it was and what it wasn't. This might help make him more comfortable. It isn't treating pneumonia. It isn't replacing medical care. And if his symptoms change, you take him to the clinic. Marcus nodded. That evening, his son drank warm tea, rested, and went to sleep. Nothing miraculous happened. He simply felt more comfortable. But Marcus told someone. That person told someone else. By the next afternoon, 6 people were standing outside Evelyn's house. Evelyn opened the door. "What is this?" A woman spoke first. "We heard you have medicine." Evelyn's expression changed. "No." Everybody became quiet. "You have herbs, don't you?" "Yes." "Then what's the difference?" Evelyn looked at the group. "A very important one." She stepped onto the porch. "I have plants traditionally used for certain purposes. I have food. I have teas. I have things that may support comfort in ordinary situations. I do not have a secret pharmacy capable of replacing every medication in town." A man near the back interrupted. "But people used herbs before pharmacies. They also died from things we routinely survive today." Nobody answered. Evelyn continued. "Respect old knowledge. Don't romanticize old suffering." That sentence traveled through Cedar Hollow faster than the rumor about her herbs. On day 5, the clinic called Evelyn. That surprised her. Dr. Rachel Kim had practiced in Cedar Hollow for 11 years. She knew Evelyn. They didn't always agree, but they respected each other. Rachel said, "I hear you've got half the town at your house." "Not anymore." Rachel laughed. "I figured." "What do you need?" "Knowledge." Evelyn became quiet. Rachel explained. The clinic still had essential medical supplies, but people were flooding them with minor complaints because normal store products were disappearing. Dry throats, minor digestive discomfort, people wanting something warm and soothing, people anxious because they couldn't buy what they normally bought. Rachel wanted to know whether Evelyn could help the community distinguish between ordinary supportive home care and symptoms requiring actual medical attention. Evelyn smiled. "That I can do." The following morning, Cedar Hollow did something nobody expected. The doctor, the pharmacist, and the herb lady sat at the same table, not fighting, not arguing about which system was superior. Planning. Mr. Reynolds created a list of medications that absolutely needed to be prioritized when emergency supplies arrived. Dr. Kim created a symptom guide showing when people needed professional medical evaluation. Evelyn created something different. A list called Things You Can Do Without Emptying the Pharmacy. Hydration. Rest. Simple, nourishing foods. Appropriate use of ordinary culinary herbs. Warm liquids. Honey for appropriate individuals. Saltwater gargles. Basic hygiene. Sleep. And most importantly, knowing when home care wasn't enough. Copies were posted around town, but Evelyn added another page. 10 plants every family should learn to identify. Not consume. Identify. That distinction was intentional. Dandelion. Plantain. Yarrow. Mullein. Nettle. Elder. Peppermint. Thyme. Violet. Pine. Underneath, in enormous letters, identification comes before use. Then, some plants have dangerous lookalikes. Some herbs interact with medications. Some plants are unsafe for certain people. Do not eat something because an app, video, or stranger told you what it is. People expected the herbalist to encourage everyone to start eating weeds. Instead, she became the person telling them to slow down. Day 6 arrived. Still no highway. But something strange was happening. The panic was decreasing. People started sharing. Someone had extra rice. Someone else had canned beans. A farmer brought eggs into town. People with generators allowed neighbors to charge medical devices and phones. A church opened its kitchen. Teenagers delivered meals to elderly residents. And Evelyn's greenhouse became a classroom. She didn't teach people how to cure disease. She taught them how embarrassingly little they knew about the plants around them. She held up one leaf. What is this? Nobody knew. Another? Nothing. Another. Silence. Evelyn laughed. You know 50 restaurant logos, but you don't know 3 plants growing behind your house. People laughed. But the joke hurt. Because she was right. Then Evelyn walked them toward the garden. This is thyme. Everybody recognized the name. But you've probably only met it inside a plastic bottle. She rubbed a leaf between her fingers. The smell immediately filled the air. Then peppermint. Then sage. Then rosemary. Plants people had purchased dried and packaged their entire lives were suddenly alive in front of them. A little girl asked, "Are these medicines?" Evelyn thought carefully. Some have histories of medicinal use. Some are mostly foods and seasonings. Some can be both. But I want you to remember something. What? Plants aren't magic. The girl nodded. They're plants. Exactly. Day 7. Emergency crews finally established a limited route into Cedar Hollow. Medical shipments received priority. When the first emergency vehicles arrived, people cheered. Mr. Reynolds received critical pharmacy supplies. The clinic restocked. Nobody had to choose between modern medicine and herbs, because that choice had never been necessary. But Cedar Hollow wasn't finished learning. The highway remained unstable for another 3 weeks. Commercial deliveries were inconsistent. and every interruption reminded people how dependent they'd become. One evening, Marcus sat on Evelyn's porch. "You know what's crazy?" "What?" "I thought being prepared meant having a bunch of stuff." Evelyn nodded. "That's part of it. I had flashlights, batteries, food, water. Good. But I didn't know anything." Evelyn looked at him. "Now you're getting somewhere." Marcus pointed toward the garden. "I've lived here 40 years. I couldn't identify anything growing around me. Most people can't." "Why?" Evelyn looked toward the mountains. "Because somebody convinced us that if we can buy something, we don't need to know how it works." Marcus didn't answer. A month after the landslide, Highway 16 reopened completely. Trucks returned. Shelves filled. Gas stations operated normally. People went back to work. Cedar Hollow returned to normal. Almost. The following spring, the hardware store sold out of vegetable seeds. For the first time in its history. The library started a gardening club. Dr. Kim hosted community classes about first aid and recognizing medical emergencies. Mr. Reynolds gave a seminar about maintaining reasonable medication supplies and planning prescription refills before disasters. And Evelyn's plant identification class had 73 people registered. She walked into the first class carrying an ordinary grocery bag. She dumped the contents onto a table. Bottled water, canned soup, cold medicine, bandages, a bottle of vitamins. Then she placed a field guide beside them. "Which one is preparedness?" Someone pointed toward the supplies. Evelyn shook her head. "All of it." Then she pointed toward her head. "And this." Years later, people still talked about the week Cedar Hollow was cut off. Stories became exaggerated. Some people claimed Evelyn had saved the town with herbs. Whenever she heard that, she immediately corrected them. "No, I didn't." "But you helped." "Yes. With herbs. Sometimes." "Then what's wrong with saying you saved everybody?" Evelyn would smile. "Because that's how useful knowledge turns into dangerous mythology." What actually helped Cedar Hollow wasn't one herb. It wasn't one doctor. It wasn't one pharmacist. It wasn't one prepper. It was preparation, knowledge, community, food, medical care, practical skills, and people understanding that different tools have different purposes. Years later, another storm approached the mountains. Weather reports warned of possible flooding. This time, nobody laughed. People checked medications early. Water containers were filled. Generators were tested. Neighbors checked on elderly residents. Gardens were harvested. Phones were charged. The clinic prepared. The pharmacy prepared. And across Cedar Hollow, dozens of families opened cabinets containing something that hadn't been there during the first disaster. Not miracle medicine. Not magical survival cures. Small collections of herbs they actually understood. Field guides they had actually read. First aid supplies they knew how to use. Food they knew how to cook without electricity. And emergency plans their families had practiced. Evelyn stood on her porch watching dark clouds gather over the mountains. Marcus walked over. "Think the highway will wash out again?" Evelyn shrugged. "Maybe." "You worried?" "Of course." Marcus smiled. "But you're ready." Evelyn looked toward town. No. Marcus looked confused. Evelyn smiled. We're ready. Because the greatest weakness Cedar Hollow discovered wasn't an empty pharmacy shelf. It was dependency without knowledge. And the greatest preparation wasn't filling those shelves again. It was making sure the people weren't helpless when they became empty. Before we finish, remember, this entire story was a work of fiction. Cedar Hollow, Evelyn Moore, Marcus, Dr. Kim, Mr. Reynolds, and the events described were fictional. Nothing in this story should be interpreted as suggesting herbs can replace prescription medications, emergency treatment, insulin, antibiotics, seizure medications, heart medications, asthma medications, or other necessary medical care. Never discontinue or substitute prescribed medication without guidance from an appropriate healthcare professional. Herbs can cause side effects, interact with medications, and be unsafe for certain people. Wild plants can also be poisonous or dangerously misidentified. Preparedness isn't choosing herbs over doctors. Preparedness is having knowledge before something goes wrong. This is Herbal Masked Prepper. Grow food. Learn plants. Know first aid. Protect your medications. Build relationships with your neighbors. And remember, a stocked shelf can become empty overnight. Knowledge doesn't come on a delivery truck.